Hi, this is Randall Schwartz, host of Floss Weekly. This week, Aaron Newcomb joins me. We're going to be talking about Jewelbots, programmable friendship bracelets. You're not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Floss Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Floss Weekly with Randall Schwartz and Aaron Newcomb, episode 460 for November 22nd, 2017, Jewelbots. This episode of Floss Weekly is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully, so you can be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/floss. It's time for Floss Weekly, the show about free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randall Schwartz, Merlin at StoneAge.com, bringing you each week the projects you want to find out about, the people you want to talk to about open source software. Joining me again this week, as many times before, my co-host, lovely and talented Aaron Newcomb. Aaron, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks. Good to be back, Randall.
Hey, cool. And where are you speaking to us from? Looks like your man cave, right?
Yeah, as always, this is my office, my study, my mini makerspace over here to my left. Yeah, this is where I spend a lot of time.
And I am speaking to you from a bit unusual location. I've only been here a couple times before. This is the kitchen set, and it's in my friend's apartment in Tijuana, Mexico. So just over that way is where, by the way, Guillermo lives, but he's not on today. I actually kind of wanted him on today, but he's still recovering. He's got some throat issues. So, but instead of having him on, no, I mean, that's going to sound like it's secondary. No, he was not my, Aaron, I'm sorry. I'm trying. Anybody can do this show apparently, but I wanted to have an expert in things related to make spaces and Arduinos and things like that today. And it's because we have an amazing guest on today. Sara Chipps is going to be coming on in a few minutes to talk about Jewelbot. And but before we get to that, just a second, I want to put a note on that for a second because it's my birthday. It's my birthday, so I'm very excited to be doing this show on my birthday. And when I Googled to see if I'd ever done a show before on my birthday, it turns out that exactly a year ago today, when we were doing the show on Tuesdays, it was also my birthday. So I've done 2 birthday shows in a row. I also want to point out, mathematically speaking, and I discovered this by playing around with Wolfram Alpha, is that right? Yeah, Wolfram Alpha, that my birthday expressed as 11/22/61 is in fact prime. And also if I express it as 11/22/1961 is also prime.
Crazy.
And it's really bizarre. And if I do the reverse order, 1961, 11/22, it is prime times 2. So it's just a factor of 2 and then a prime number. So I have a very unusual birthday.
I need to do that. What did you plug in to figure that out? Did you just plug in your birthday or? Yeah,
just type in, go to Wolfram Alpha and just type in your birthday and whatever form you want to do, and then there we go. Okay, wow. So this is just really bizarre. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I'm being completely distracted. I'm excited. It's my birthday. I'm having a great time. I've spent probably 3 of my birthdays here in Tijuana, and it's always fun because we can take a $2.50 Uber cab up to Centro, where all the bars are, $2.50 Uber cab to come back. So very cool. Anyway, so back to the show at hand. Sorry, let's not get too distracted. Jewelbots. So what these are friendship bracelets. Oh, first I should say that I saw Sara giving a presentation about this at allthingsopen.org just a few weeks ago when I was off in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I immediately went up to her after the presentation and said, I have to have this on my show. And let me explain why. So these are friendship bracelets that have 4 infinite color LEDs, full RGB LEDs, totally settable to any color of the rainbow, and a button, a magic button, they call it, a master button. Magic button? Magic button. And so what these are they're basically Arduinos that are programmable. And so this originally was a Kickstarter project. Now it's fully available. You go to the website, you can buy all you want. But it's basically getting teen and preteen girls programming in C++. This is so cool. They're programming because they want to make it so that when I'm around, they have Bluetooth too, so they can tell when their friends are around. So they can say in the code, when my friend is nearby, both of our bracelets are going to glow blue. And so they know each other is nearby. And you can push on a button and have it send messages to your friends that are nearby. This is really freaking cool. So what do you know about this so far, Aaron?
Well, I've worked on similar projects, so I'm really excited about this for a couple of reasons. But I think the biggest reason is because it is a way to get girls interested in programming and tech. It was interesting when I took my son to school. He's going to Cornell, and we went there for a tour. And they said, I asked them, I said, well, what are your what's the ratio of girls to boys in or women to men, I guess at that point, in your engineering programs? And they said, oh, we have really good ratios. We mirror the stats that you would expect, 50-50. And they said that's true for everything except for computer science. Wow. And I was like, oh, I was like all excited for a second. And they said, yeah, computer science is still like 20. I forget what the stat was, like 20% women versus men. So, this is an area that's, I think, hugely important. It's, for some reason, if you go back in history, and I've done some of this, and you look at the trends, excuse me, where women, as either a percentage of computer science majors or other things, you can see that the trend line has not been going the same direction as all the other majors, technology majors out there. The trend line basically has stayed flat for women participating in those majors. And I could go on and on. I've done some research in this, so it's really crazy. But anyway, so for that reason alone, I'm really excited about this. But also for the technology, it looks really cool. So I can't wait to talk about this. It looks super cool.
Well, we're going to be bringing Sara on in just a moment, but before that, I have a very important message, because this episode of Floss Weekly is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. The mortgage experience wasn't keeping up with the times. It was dated, and it needed a client-focused technological revolution. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. It's convenient. Their trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. It's powerful, whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th. Rocket Mortgage is able to perform thousands of calculations in seconds. Based on your income, assets, and credit, Rocket Mortgage can analyze all of the home loan options for which you qualify and find the one that's just right for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/floss. That's rocketmortgage.com/FLOSS. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support of Floss Weekly. Well, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Sara, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
And where are you speaking to us from?
New York City. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn.
Ah, so you're 3 hours in the future. Tell me what the stock prices are so I can invest.
It's Bitcoin. Just put everything in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way, does it? We're all on the same timeline right now. That's how this works. Anyway, give us the 30,000-foot view. What is this all about? Was I accurate in describing it?
Man, you did such a good job. I think I'm done. You got it. You can take it from here. So Jewelbots is something that we've been working on for about 3.5 years now. They're smart, programmable friendship bracelets designed to inspire girls to pursue careers in engineering. And like you said, we have 8-year-olds writing C++, which is the most amazing and humbling experience you can imagine.
Awesome. And how did this come about?
So I've been a software engineer for 16 years. And I was 5 years into my career before I worked with another woman. It was another 5 years after that until I worked with another. And I've really enjoyed this career. I love making the internet. That's what an amazing thing to do and what an amazing thing to be a part of. And so I've always been looking for a way to find, to inspire just more girls to want to get involved. I started with women. I started teaching classes to adult women, started an organization called Girl Develop It. And one thing I heard from our students all the time was that they didn't know what an engineer was until they got to college. And by the time they got there, it was too late. You know, they were like, oh, I don't know anything about this. And now they work next to a programmer that makes 4 times what they do. And they're like, man, I want to do that so bad. So I started talking to the men that I worked with about, you know, when did you find this career? How did you get inspired to do this? And overwhelmingly, what I heard from them was during their preteen years, they discovered gaming, or they discovered an open source project or something similar that really got them into it. So I knew we had to target preteens. When did you both start programming?
Oh, I started when I was 9. So yeah.
Yeah, same
Right?
here. Yeah, I started with a BASIC on a TRS-80 color computer. So, yep.
Yeah, I was 11, and when I discovered BBSs, and I got super into them. So my first idea was that we'd make a bracelet that changed color to match our outfit. I was like, girls will love this. They love outfits. And so I worked with a friend that went to ITP, who, which is an NYU campus here. She made a prototype of a bracelet that changed color to match her outfit. We brought that to schools, to test it, to see what the reaction was, if it was something girls liked, if it was something they were into, and they were excited to see the bracelet, but the functionality, they're like, that's kind of lame. And so we started talking to them about like what could get you excited, right? Because like we didn't care what we built, we just wanted to make something that would get them excited. Because if you look at things like Minecraft or MySpace or Neopets, they're all situations where kids find this thing and they fall in love with it, and then they figure out that they can program it, and they're like, how do I do that? I'll teach myself, and kids teach themselves. So we wanted to make that artificially. So we heard from them. Like the more we talked to them, the more they talked about friendship. It's the most important thing to them, during those years. So we were like, what if we make a friendship bracelet that lights up when your friends are nearby? And that's when they started really freaking out. They would be like, oh my God, I have to have that. It's so important. So that's how we knew that was what we needed to make.
And so the project specifically, I think I got it right. You did a Kickstarter first to have this happen, and then this is now moved just being a fully available product? Yeah.
A consumer product. Man, so crazy. We did a Kickstarter in 2014. Was it 2015? 2015 we did a Kickstarter. Our goal was to raise $30K. We raised that in day one, and I ended up raising 5 times that by the time we were done. Thank goodness. So that's kind of what started us on our path to build Jewelbots.
Okay, and so what is this? So it's a bracelet, and it has 4 infinite color LEDs and a button and Bluetooth. What's sort of inside it? Is this open hardware?
Yeah, it's open hardware. Everything is on our GitHub. So we use a Nordic chip. It's a microprocessor that has a built-in Bluetooth antenna. It has 4 RGB LEDs, like you said, a motor, and a button. All our firmware hardware is available online. The Nordic chip that we use is really interesting. It allows for 8 simultaneous both central and peripheral relationships to happen at the same time. So Jewelbots can talk to many other Jewelbots or your smart home or anything you put your mind to that is Bluetooth.
Well, that's getting this. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just going to say that's really cool. How did you? I mean, this is so small. I mean, I do a lot with the ESP8266, which is also pretty small. How did you go about picking that particular microprocessor to use?
This is actually a funny story. There's an excellent salesman. So we did a hardware accelerator called Highway 1, based in San Francisco. Highway 1 is really awesome. Basically, they give you seed funding for your company, and they set you up with mentors and help you build a prototype, which is great because my background isn't in hardware. So they were really helpful with a lot of the things that we needed in order to be successful. And we had a bunch of people associated with chip manufacturers come in and talk to us. The most exciting thing about this microprocessor to us was the ability to have so many relationships at the same time. Having a friendship bracelet, you're going to have more than one friend. So we wanted to make sure that the way that looked was fairly seamless on the part of the user. So when I heard about this one, I mean, the TI has a chip that allows you to have 3 relationships at the same time. But this was the most that I had heard about. What he didn't mention at the time is that the chip wasn't even yet in alpha and wouldn't be for about 1.5 years. So we got to go through the whole process with them of going through the alpha and the beta process of the chip, finally being one of the first on the market to release it in a consumer product.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm just looking at the specs for it right now. I mean, how big is the watch actually? I mean, we should probably take a look at the website. It's jewelbots.com, by the way, if you're curious. I mean, is it the size of a smartwatch or smaller?
It's a little bit smaller round than your Apple Watch, but it's a little bit higher as well. So it's a little bigger than a quarter.
And how in the world are you able to fit everything in there that I mean, let's see. So you've got a button, you've got at least 4 LEDs, you've got the microprocessor, you've got some memory, I assume, and then you also have to fit a battery in there. What else am I missing?
Man, that's the music to my ears. No one actually knows how hard that was.
Yeah, that's like impossible.
Most people are like, you make it smaller, and I'm like, do you know? Yeah, it was really difficult. So this is probably this is our 8th prototype. We went through a lot of iterations. The most expensive thing about making this device actually is how small our copper pore needs to be in order to make the PCB. The size of the PCB is very small. The height, most of the height is the battery. It's a rechargeable LiPo, and that's what attributes to the height. It was actually initially our last prototype before this one was a little bit larger, and on my arm it looked totally fine. When we started user testing it turns out young girls have tiny little arms, and so if it gets much bigger than this, it kind of hangs over their wrist. So this was something we worked really hard to do to get so much stuff in here. Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean, what size? I'm just I got to geek out for a second here. I mean, what size resistors and things are you using? I'm assuming they've got to be at least 403, right?
Yeah, they're absurdly small. I know a lot of sizes, not our resistor sizes, but the microprocessor itself is 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters. So right. I often say that if I ate it, I would have no idea.
Yeah, that is super tiny.
Everyone always thinks that's a weird thing to say, so I don't know why I'm still saying it.
No, but it's true. I mean, unless you've had some experience soldering these things, you have no idea. Like they disappear. Like where did it go? Because it's so tiny. That's incredible. Yeah. So you got a battery. The other thing I like about this, and we should talk about, is that you've developed a board definition for the Arduino IDE, I believe, so that you can use the Arduino IDE, because Arduino's made this, has worked hard at making this somewhat simple for beginner programmers to use to get started with making things and using the Arduino boards. What about that process? What was the decision process like there? Were you always looking to make it Arduino or compatible with the Arduino IDE?
Yeah, we always were, just because making your own IDE is just such a mountain to climb. And so just having something that we could just plug and play was great. And so before we even started, someone built a Nordic open source library for an earlier version of the microprocessor that would allow you to use the Arduino IDE in order to program for Nordic. And so we just took that and augmented it a bit to work with our device. but that was really helpful. And that's how we knew we could. Another reason we knew we could use the chip is because Nordic has that library that allows you to just use Arduino for their devices. And then setting it up as a board, it was a fairly painless process. There's a lot of documentation out there in order to do that. So a lot of people have done these things before, so that was really helpful.
Yeah, that's great, and kudos to the Arduino team for making an IDE that is open to the point where you can do that. I mean, they could have closed it off, right? And said, no, if it's not an Arduino product, you're not going to be able to program on it. They didn't do that. They actually opened it up, and they've been open all along, and that's what enables a lot of projects similar to this even to work this way. So we got to give them a little bit of kudos for doing that and being open. So you've got a battery in here. How are you able to keep this thing running for very long? Do you use sleeping techniques? Does the processor allow you to put it to sleep for a certain amount of time and then wake up, or how do you make the battery last? What is the battery life?
So that's something we've actually worked really hard to improve. Initially, when we first wrote the firmware, the battery life was about 7 hours, which is fine, but not a really long time. Some things, so we definitely incorporated sleep methods. You can turn the Jewelbots off by holding down the button for 5 complete seconds, and then it'll go into sleep mode. And then when you hit it again, it'll come out of sleep mode. So that's one way we saved on battery time. Another way, so basically how Jewelbots work is they're constantly polling the room, looking for other Jewelbots, like a little beacon. So we experimented a lot with different times between polling and allowing for, how long would it take? What is the user perception of, it's taking too long for my Jewelbot to see the other Jewelbot. So that was something, we slowed down the polling to do. Also, we reduced, these LEDs look bright, but they're actually just a portion of the capability of these LEDs. So we reduced the brightness of the LEDs. And as a result, battery life is now, when it's fully on, up to 3 days. And then when you turn it off, you get a couple weeks. So we're really happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How big is your team? Like, how many engineering resources do you have working on this?
We are such a baby team. We're 4 people.
Wow.
So yeah. So we've been, from the beginning, pretty scrappy. Building a consumer product is, especially when you're working with inventory and different things like that, is an intensive thing to do. So we've taken a lot of baby steps.
Yeah, and it seems like you've had pretty good success so far. I mean, it's been featured on, seems like a number of websites and things like that. I mean, what's been the reaction so far? How long has this been in the market too?
So we started shipping last November. Before the holidays, we'll ship our 10,000th unit, which I'm really excited about. So far the reception has been great. So there's a lot of things you're concerned about right out of the gate. First of all, will this work? Will people like this? Will it break? And what will the retention be? And something we thought about a lot is how many people will be coding? Will the young ladies that use this even code? So out of the gate, we were really happy with the reception. People like the functionality. We worked a lot with our users to make it more fun, because when we were first building it, we were just running around our office, in and out of range and going outside and all those things. And we're adults. So it was, we did some user testing with kids, but there's nothing like shipping, 3,000 units at once into the world to have people be like, oh, here's some test case you didn't think of. So we've iterated a lot on the firmware since then. So girls love them. We get less than 2% returns. And what was the other statistic I was going to share? Oh yeah, 44% of our users are coding their Jewelbots in C++, which is pretty wild.
That's fantastic. I did want to ask about the the manufacturing and sourcing process for this. I mean, I assume you're going to have the boards assembled at a fab, and then or the boards made at a fab, and then you're going to have them assembled at some point and sent back. Is the whole product made somewhere, or are you guys involved in the assembly at some stage?
The whole product is made in Guangzhou in China. We're really lucky to have a manufacturing partner that is someone that we've been able to share a lot of the learnings with, and has been a big help. I think this is something that can often destroy a company as small as ours. And we went through a long process of talking to many different manufacturers in a few different countries, and we found ours, and we're happy that we did.
Yeah. You mentioned that you have 40% people coding. How can you tell, or how do you know that you have 40%?
Board downloads. So in order to code the device, you need to download the board, and we have the analytics from the people that are downloading the board. If you don't want to code it, you never need to do that. You can just play with it.
That's cool. We do have a question from the audience I'll bring in real quick. Jojo the Answer asks, is there a server tier to the system, and what is the security and the encryption like in the system?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And this is something that I've been wanting to talk about at a larger scale. What does that mean? I've been wanting to write about this because it's a hot topic. I don't know if you saw, but recently in Germany, they outlawed the use of smartwatches for kids because of the things that they are recording about kids. Mm-hmm. And often, I think in the world of software, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but we are trained to get as much information as possible and store as much information about our users as possible. And I believe that when it comes to kids, the opposite is true. We don't want to know anything about where they are, what they're doing, what their names are, their email addresses. We don't, even if they were adults, that would be great. But because of kids, we have to be really careful about, what we're advertising and what we store. So for example, parents ask us all the time, will Jewelbots help me find out where my kids are or like track my kids? And my first answer is always, please watch your kids. don't rely on some like technology to watch your kids for you. And second of all, no, absolutely not. We don't, we didn't put a GPS in this because, the good people, they want to see where their kids are. The bad people, they want to see where your kids are as well. So we don't store anything, and there's no server component when it comes to a Jewelbot. A Jewelbot can connect to your cell phone, but everything that it knows, like such as who its friends are and things, are stored on the physical device and not anywhere else.
That's cool. I know it's been a big concern lately, especially when you're targeting this particular audience, right? I guess your target is probably what, like 8 to 14-year-old girls?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely want to be careful with security. But did you do any research into? So I kind of brought this up in the kind of teased this out in my when Randall and I were talking about this initially, is that I think there is a desire to get more women into coding and software engineering. Did you do much research into the psychology of what it would take? Like, how did you come up with, we're going to do a friendship bracelet? I mean, for me, that resonates with my childhood. We did friendship bracelets and the things, friendship, I don't know what they were, that you put on your shoelaces. There was something that we made that you put on your shoelaces. Anyway,
I remember, yeah.
Did you do much research into the psychology of what would appeal to that particular audience?
We did, and so there's a lot of research about like what keeps women in and out of software engineering. There's also a lot of opinion, and so. I tried to base a lot of our decision-making process on both our own research and what we found that was out there in the world. And there's a lot to the stereotype of if I'm a computer, I need to like sci-fi. Sorry, if I'm a programmer, I need to be really into sci-fi. I need to go to Comic-Con. I need to care about these certain things because this is the archetype of the programmer. And so what we really wanted to do with this is kind of blow that out of the water and be like, guess what? You can like friendship and fashion and, things that are stereotypically a little more feminine, and also still be a programmer at the same time, because it turns out there's software in everything. And that's something that from the beginning is really been our mission, is to just show that. And, personally, I love sci-fi, and I've never been to a Comic-Con, but they look really cool. So none of those things are generally bad. But we just wanted to make sure people know that, all kinds of people can be programmers. And as far as how we found out about the friendship stuff, we literally talked to 200 girls. Like, we went to schools and just was like, what's interesting to you? Like, let us in your heads. Tell us what's interesting. And it was just that they wear the friendship bracelets still. Like, if you look at their wrists, they would have them all up their arm, of the, like the homemade ones. And so we were like, man, they're already wearing them. It's all they talk about. This is where I think we're onto something.
Okay, hey, so I can't let Aaron have the whole show, although I'm sure he could probably just keep asking wonderful questions. He's been doing a good job so far. But I wanted to follow up with that security question a moment ago. So Bluetooth devices have a unique prefix, right, to say this is this particular kind of Bluetooth device. Couldn't that be used by somebody a bit nefarious to identify that there are Jewelbots nearby?
If you are within 100 yards of a Jewelbot, you can see that there is a Jewelbot nearby. Yes, if you're within 100 feet of a Jewelbot, you can see there's a Jewelbot nearby. But by that point, you're also like visually seeing someone, and it's probably not the fastest path to finding someone is using a Bluetooth scanner to figure out what they're wearing. But that's definitely something that you could do.
Okay, I'm sure some people at home were sort of wondering that too, so I wanted to make sure I asked that as a proxy. And since it is a Bluetooth device, can I also program it to talk to my laptop?
Yeah, and I'm really dying for someone out there to do some cool adult stuff with Jewelbots, because you could, since it's open source, I think, and I've spent a lot of time looking, so I would love to hear from your audience if they know of another one. I think it's the only open source wearable. And so I think, I don't know if you guys have heard of another one. There's been a few that have tried to make the market, but I haven't seen anything else. So you could program it to talk to your GitHub if you wanted to, or talk to your laptop, or talk to your Alexa, or talk to your Nest. It's kind of, the possibilities are endless.
Well, I could already see that, for example, I could use it as a token, an authentication token, so that when I'm near my laptop says, oh, he's here, as opposed to me being away and people trying to type on my keyboard. Aaron, do you know of anything like that yet?
The only thing I can think of that comes close is this isn't really considered a wearable, is the stuff that's out in the marketplace for clothing, to modify clothing. And then those are Arduino based as well. But that's the only thing I can think of, and I wouldn't really put them in the same category as this. But I know those have been really popular, even in our own makerspace. I mean, when we do a workshop and we talk about, hey, here's how you can embed LEDs into a outfit or something like that, that always tends to draw more women than men. It gets more women excited for whatever reason. So it's kind of similar to this, but it's not necessarily the same thing as a watch or some glasses or something like that.
Thanks, Aaron. So Sarah, you got a few use cases on the website, but can you tell us some of the most unusual ways these have been used?
Yeah, my personal favorite is, so we had someone in our community who's a cello player, and so she programmed her Jewelbots to act like a metronome to help her keep the tone. which is neat because she didn't have to have anything audio. It was just a buzz on her wrist. So as far as people knew, she wasn't using a metronome, but she could keep her Jewelbots in time with the beat, which that's one of my favorite use cases. A lot of people play them for hide and go seek, use them for hide and go seek, especially in big spaces, because you can tell when you're nearby someone. Something on our list of things to do is allow people to sense like how close you are. So you can do like a hot and cold type situation. But yeah, people have done some really fun things and some cool light animations.
In retrospect, what do you think it still needed before launch, or are you really happy with your launch?
Man, that list is really long. I wish we had a lot more time to work on the technology. There's a lot we wanted from the app that we didn't get to do in time. I think those are the big, I think I would have had more functionality in the app. A lot of people are asking for a drag and drop coding interface right now, which is something that I think we'll probably likely do in the future to have a middle ground between no coding and C++. Hopefully it'll get more people down that funnel. So that's something that I'd like to add. But just, easier onboarding too is something I wish we had in the beginning. That's something that we worked on hard.
And I'm not an Arduino expert, so I'm guessing that C++ is really the only language that you could have chosen.
Yeah, because it's so small. You can't fit a compiler on the size of microprocessor that we have for like another like a later like a 4GL language like Python or something like that.
Huh, that's a bit disappointing. C++ has always been something that if somebody says you got to code in C++, I kind of go, ew, that's only my second most hated language next to Java. So anyway, it's like that's why as I've been building up this show over the last few weeks, I keep saying, and she's even getting people to program in C++. So it's like of all the things to like they aren't going to hate. You know what it's going to be is these girls are all going to grow up thinking programming is a little hard, kind of hard. And then they're going to discover things like Python and go, oh, this is a whole lot easier. Why didn't they show us this first? So you're starting them out at that difficult stage. So they can make it past this. You must be this high to program. I think you're probably
expectations.
So what's the future for this? Where are you going with this?
What a good question. So we have lots of plans. I can tell you that we've gotten a lot of feedback that we're going to incorporate in our next version. We definitely want to add some functionality and some maybe some components to the device like an accelerometer. What we really want to do is just incorporate as much everyday stuff as we can, such as, allowing older kids to pair with their phones and get Facebook notifications, different times throughout the day. We want to work on other devices too. We definitely have some more devices up our sleeves for fun. I mean, I think learning through play is just so great. So we want to enable as many people as possible to do that.
Cool. And this being open source, have you gotten any feedback from your community or users to actually help you patch your app?
Yeah, we have, and we've had people reach out and ask us, how they can help, and that's been great. So we've had quite a few pull requests from people in our community that have wanted to help, which is just the best. We have a lot of developer parents who are really excited to see their daughters coding.
Cool. And what about the hardware? Have you got any feedback on the hardware?
No, we haven't yet. We haven't. Not as many people have been. So active in that community as the software community. I think the open source hardware community is a little different. Aaron, maybe you could talk about, I don't know what you've seen, but the open source hardware community is not as big as the open source software community. And I think it has a lot to do with the closed environments a lot of the chip manufacturers encourage. But we haven't seen as much activity on the hardware side of things.
Yeah, I think that in addition to just the fact that this is kind of a new concept, open hardware, it's a newer concept than open source software. It hasn't been around for as long. So I think this is picking up steam, but it's still early days for the open hardware movement. So that's why it's not quite as large as well. And you're right, there are a lot of manufacturers that want to lock you in, either with a license or with something, and makes it really difficult to develop a truly open hardware platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Speaking of platform, I just wanted to ask: are you using? I haven't looked at your design yet. I will if this isn't the right answer. Are you using the NRF24AP2 chip?
We're using the NRF 51.
Okay.
NRF 51822.
Got it. Because I see they also have the 24, and I'm sure they're probably developing others. Because I wanted to, which leads me to my next question, which is, if I wanted to develop something similar, can I use your board definition in Arduino to program a similar microcontroller?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Please, and people, please do. That's why it's out there, and that's why open source exists. So you could definitely even just start with our boards, copy them, and make your own. Customize yours in the way you want.
Yeah, I think that's so great. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. Just one thing about our firmware is that we kind of have a sandbox environment for Arduino, and then there's all the functionality that's native to the Jewelbots device. So if you look through our firmware, you can see, okay, here are the APIs that are open to Arduino, and here's the stuff that's more innate to the device. So you can play with both and make it pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, because I've already got some ideas just based on our conversation of little projects I might want to try with this thing. Like I said, most of what I do can be accomplished with the ESP line of microcontrollers, but this has kind of got me thinking about, oh, wait a second, I can actually connect with 8 different Bluetooth devices. Like, oh, wait, this could be really cool. So yeah, maybe I'll pick up at least a one of your products first, and then because you've already done all the hard work, and then if things work, maybe I'll start looking into building my own stuff with it.
That's great.
Are you? I mean, I know that there's with the news of tech shop closing and things like that, people are going to be affected. I think they had one in Brooklyn as well. I'm just kind of curious. Do you do most of your work out of an office, or do you make use of a makerspace or something like that?
We have an office in the Lower East Side here. We work out of a co-working space called Orbital, which is a really awesome place to work. It's mostly software folks. We weren't involved in tech shop. I love to see more things like that here. So really bummed that they closed. There's a really neat makerspace in New York called, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. One of the original ones, right? Yeah.
It's something NYC. Resistor? No. Shoot, I can't think of it either, but it's actually one of the first. There's 3 makerspaces that kind of started the makerspace movement, and that is one of them. Our chat room will look it up for us.
NYC Resistor.
That's what it is. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I got close.
Yeah.
They were one of the original makerspaces actually in the country, along with Noisebridge here in San Francisco and another one in Philadelphia, I believe. So you're in good company there for sure. I think that it's anyway, I could go on about makerspaces. I won't. Let's go back to the product. So what's next? Do you have plans for another? I don't know. I don't know what would be next. An anklet or a or what about that idea of putting them on your shoes like we used to do when I was kids?
I think so. Right now, we're still working on this as a team, but right now our plan is to work on something for older kids. So to work on something a little more sophisticated with some pretty neat functionality. We're doing some experimenting with. We haven't started prototyping yet, but we're kind of testing out and learning what's possible to make some neat stuff. Because I think people don't make, remember LAN parties? And now like everything is about like as big of a network as you can have, but there's a lot of fun that could be had in like being near people and doing fun stuff. So that's kind of what we're playing with.
Yeah, that's great. I can see this being like a whole line of stuff, right, in the Jewelbot family. Like, I can see there being all sorts of cool things, and especially since you have an existing user base that might be interested in purchasing something a little different. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with next. That'll be great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I kind of want to get back to this question about the. I guess you haven't been around long enough, but I'm kind of curious. Like, what's been your experience in terms of women in technology and women in programming? I mean, are you starting to see a shift, or are we still a long ways off?
Something I've seen, like I said, I've been doing this for 16 years, so it's been a long time. Something I've seen in the past few years, which has been really amazing, is a lot more female role models emerging. I remember I found out who Marissa Meyer was when I was like, still like mid-career. And I was so excited because I was like, oh my goodness, this is someone like she's into fashion and like she's a girl, like she's proud of that. And she likes programming like I do. And I was so excited. But there wasn't, I think, those like visible figures earlier, or at least I didn't know of them. And now I see amazing people coming out of the woodwork, like Jessica Frizzell, who does a lot of open source work with containers. There are people like Amy Luvo, who does this really awesome, a lot of comics that have to do with programming. There's some really neat people, women out there coding. So that's really encouraging for me, I think. And that's something that we do at Jewelbots. We have a coding icon series where we highlight women in software that we admire. I think that's a really exciting change I've seen. So one thing a woman named Marie Wilson that used to work at the White House said is, you can't be what you can't see. And I'm really hoping with the emergence of a lot more role models, girls will be like, oh yeah, like that can be me. I don't need to be the first. Which I think makes it a lot easier. Yeah,
definitely. And in case people are wondering, I mean, I know the companies that I work for, I'm sure that Randall works for too, are really concerned about this. I mentioned Cornell, who is where my son is going. They're really trying to bump up that ratio. In fact, they I don't know if this was by coincidence or not, but their new president of Cornell actually is a software engineer. She was a software engineering major, and she's done a lot of really cool work in AI and machine learning. And now she's the president of the school. So I think that was part of their effort to try to turn this around. But it really is important. If you think about even this, just using this product as an example, this is something that not just girls but boys might be interested in too. And without having that perspective on things, like, I just think it's really important for the whole industry. Like, it's really valuable to have different perspectives, whether it's gender perspectives or racial perspectives, or without going too far on this, when you're trying to build a good product, it's helpful to have as many different kinds of views on it as possible. And so if you want to keep buying really cool products for yourselves, your family, Christmas is coming up, by the way, this might be a good one for Christmas. It's really important to have all sorts of people involved in the development process. So I'm becoming more and more passionate about this over time. So that's my little speech. My speech is over. Back to you, Randall.
Okay. Hey, we're almost out of time. We're just coming up against the bottom of the hour here. So one of the things I do want to also bring up that, you take a woman like Grace Hopper, who had inspired for many decades, actually, women getting into programming and, trying to be more relevant to that. I appreciate what you're doing, Sara, in making this happen. And I also really want to encourage you to make things for older kids. I am an older kid. I'm a very older kid, given it's my 56th birthday today. But I am an older kid, and I would love to have a device. Maybe it's more like my Fitbit, sort of a little more, not quite as, I'm just walked right into that, where I was going to say more girly. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I walked right into that. But, so if you can come up with devices that maybe I can use, like I said, as an authentication thing for my phone. Oh, and here's the other thing. In our chat room, we actually had a couple of people chat about the idea of having a programming kit that would be able to talk to the Jewelbot or its successor that would actually run on iOS and Android. So you could be out in the field programming something and having it talk to it and update it. That would be really, really cool. I'm sure that's probably been suggested before, huh?
No, it hasn't. That sounds awesome. Like something from the movie Hackers, where you're just like out there with your phone, like updating your bot. That sounds really awesome. Cool.
And like I said, we're almost out of time. Is there anything we didn't ask that you want to make sure our audience is aware of before we have to let you go?
No. What I'm doing for Turkey Day. Today's the day where we panic because we're cooking a turkey. So are you doing turkey? Are you celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow? You're not in the U.S.
Well, I'm on a border town, and so there'll probably be, as they say down here, pavo. That's the Spanish word for turkey. So there'll probably be some turkey nearby, but I don't know where I'm going yet. All I know is it's not officially a holiday here. But of course, it's funny. Cinco de Mayo is not officially a holiday here. I mean, it's a minor holiday, but because it is celebrated huge in the U.S. thanks to Corona beer, who actually got it going in the U.S. Actually, is how it actually turned around. It's either Corona or Tecate. I forget which one of the two. But one of the two beer guys decided they were going to sell more Mexican beer if they had a Mexican holiday in the U.S. That's why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Although down here it's like nothing. But because this is a border town, it does get celebrated quite a bit. So I bet there's probably going to be some Thanksgiving celebrations here. So I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be cool. And I know that question that I just asked you is one of the most difficult questions I ever ask our guests, because like you have to go through and figure out, what did I want to talk about? Subtract everything we talked about, and then see what the difference in the set is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see it in your eyes. I could go, okay, your eyes are rolling. It's because it's the same problem I have with every one of my guests. Hey, Sarah, It's been wonderful chatting with you. I do have two questions since you're technical. So what is your favorite scripting language?
Oh, man, my favorite scripting language. Bash isn't a language, but I've written a lot of Bash scripts in my life.
I'll take that. That's fine. And then your favorite, what text editor do you spend all day in?
I was Vim till I died. And then I had to use Atom for something. And I was like, you know what? This is easier.
I know. Atom is amazing. We're trying to get the Atom guys on this show because it's every time I see it, every time I play with it, it's like, this is just totally cool. So yeah, those are great answers, by the way. Neither of them were Perl or Emacs, but that's okay. It's my birthday. I don't care about getting points on my score anymore. So
no,
Sarah,
but I can tell you, one of my best friends, or one of my very close friends in New York, runs the New York Emacs meetup. There's a huge Emacs community here, only because of him.
Cool. Well, I got a half a point on that one. That's great. Sarah, I really enjoyed your presentation at All Things Open. I'm glad I got to see you there. Glad you got to be able to be on the show so quickly so that we could get the word out about this. And because it is still in time for Christmas, and you can order these.
Still in time for Christmas.
Can you get them by Christmas? Are they in stock?
Yeah. And if you wait till Friday, they're going to be buy one get one free.
Ooh! I may even get one. I may even get two.
Bonus for Floss Weekly listeners.
Yeah, exactly. You heard it here first, folks. So that's how that's going. Sarah, it's been wonderful. Thank you very much, and we hope you all the best and all the success. If you come out with your adult or older age product, please older age, not the product itself, but for people that are older, please invite yourself back on the show. That would be wonderful.
I will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was Sara Chipps talking to us about Jewelbots. What do you think there, Aaron?
Well, I mean, it's obvious, right? What I think. This is fantastic. I'm probably definitely going to take advantage of the buy one get one offer that's coming up soon. I think it's great. I mean, a lot of times I can tell you from experience, at least at our makerspace, when we do our open houses, a lot of times the people that come in are male. Let's just say, no, they are. They're male. Let's not for the most part beat around the bush. They're male, and then we get a lot of people that come in with their sons or with their grandsons. And I get it. I understand why, but we exist to encourage hands-on learning for everyone, right? Not just guys and boys, and we want everyone to be involved. So that's why we invested in a lot of things that people have been asking us about, jewelry making products and sewing products and things like that, to try to pull in everybody, because we really believe that the community is stronger when there are a lot of people involved from all aspects of life. And so I think that products like these, that really is hitting a niche in the market. So good for them from a marketing perspective for doing that. But I know it goes well beyond just how do we sell a product. It's how can we influence women to become coders and software engineers. And so I think they deserve a big kudos for doing that.
Absolutely. And I know that in my personal experience, there have been more women involved in programming over the years. And not just like front end stuff, but like actual, back end hard coding kind of things and QA and things like that. So it's very, very like that. But I think my technical group, the core team, which is all about the infrastructure at ZipRecruiter, is entirely male. And I think that's a little weird because I think, there's no reason that things that are now considered DevOps should be something that would be a mostly male profession at this point. There's a lot of cool things that go on in DevOps, and I hope that profession also slides more towards equality as things move on. But I'm probably going to order a pair of these Friday just so I can play with it, just so I can pair it with my laptop as an authentication token. Even if I only leave it in my pocket. I don't think I'm going to wear it. A little too early for me. I don't think I'm going to wear it. I'm going to put it in my pocket. And so that when I come close, you know what? It'll be in my Scotty Vest jacket pocket because that's always on me. So yeah.
There you go.
So when I put my coat down, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say I've got the lock on my front door now is Bluetooth capable. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, here we go. I walk up to the door, hit the button on the thing. Maybe it unlocks my door for me. There's all sorts of cool applications.
Yeah, I mean, I could be carrying like a full-scale Raspberry Pi or something instead, and those are getting pretty small too, by the way, right? Aren't they pretty little, very small things now?
The Raspberry Pi Zero. So the original form factor was about the size of a credit card. Now it's half that, and very thin. So yeah, everything's getting smaller these days. But that's cool because you can build it into more and more cool projects like this.
Cool. But then of course you wouldn't have the 4 infinite color LEDs. That would be missing, and the button. Yeah. Don't forget the magic button. The magic button is very important. All right, we got to wrap up because we're getting close here. So let me go ahead and talk about the upcoming guests. We've got Dell coming up next week, talking about their open curly code, closed curly umbrella project that has a lot of open source support. Following that, SUSE. Haven't actually had SUSE officially on the show before, although we've had people from the SUSE project represent other things on this show. Linkerd, following that, transparent proxy that adds service discovery, routing, failure handling for containers. And then starting the first of the year, we're bringing back the bacon. We're bringing the bacon home. John O'Bacon himself is going to be coming in, talking to us. I saw him at All Things Open talk about Art of Community, and a lot of things have happened since his seminal book, Art of Community, was written in 2009. So he's going to come and talk and update us on what he's seen about community over the years now, given that he's had 8 years of experience there, 9 years by the time we get around next year. Then just added the schedule last week, and I made fun of this, which is not a good way to sell a show, but the Open Mainframe Project. And I said we have all 3 guests that are going to be, or 3 audience members are going to be excited about that. But I've actually been getting tweets saying I'm going to be watching that show. So we definitely have already exceeded the limit of people that want to watch that show. Apparently, also this would apply also to supercomputers because we're running Linux pretty much on every large supercomputer these days. It's all Linux, all open source. This is about bringing that together, bringing it coordinating. And just added since last week, I love it when my guests invite themselves on the show, and then I get to add them to the list here, is Process Maker, which is a workflow manager. So basically, as you have various paperworks that need to go from place to place or go through stages of things, you have to manage that flow. And this is a drag and drop visual interface for all that. There's an open source component to it, and then there's the freemium component to it, the above board. I'm hoping to get Simon on that show so he can so I don't have to channel Simon. Let's just put it that way, because he's already really excited about those things where there's like a tiny open source part, and then there's the actual commercial part that really does everything you want. The open source part's just like a loss leader or whatever. Oh, I shouldn't be saying it before the guests come on the show. Sorry. All right. Anyway, before I dig myself a new hole, I'm going to say you can find out about this and more at the homepage for the show, twit.tv/floss. If you have any other suggestions of people that might not be offended by having them on my show, please have the project leader or community coordinator email me, Merlin@stonehenge.com. There we go. Just open up Q1. Got a couple dates already booked in there. We have a live stream at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays when we tape this show. We take questions from there. We took a number of questions today from there. You can follow us at Floss Weekly on Google Plus or at Floss Weekly on Twitter. You can follow me at Randall L. Schwartz on Google Plus and at Merlin on Twitter. I'm told to read this by the head office. what are your favorite segments, shows, or moments on Twit this year? We're putting together our best of episodes and want your help. Head over to twit.tv/bestof, BESTOF, all one word. Fill out the form with whatever information you remember and be a part of making these special shows that will air the week between Christmas and New Year's. Please nominate some Floss Weekly shows. I really appreciate that. Anything you want to plug there, Aaron, before we have to get out of here?
A few quick things. So number one, I'll be at AWS reInvent, a big show in Vegas next week. So I'll be there just on Wednesday. If you happen to be going to the Sumo Logic party that's happening on Wednesday evening, you can drop by and see my Throne of Code, which is if you're a Game of Thrones fan, that's like the Iron Throne, except it's all made out of keyboards. So it's this big prop that I made. It's super fun. You can sit in it, take pictures, and all that kind of stuff. So if you happen to be going to the Sumo Logic party at AWS reInvent, I should be there somewhere near the Throne of Code. You can stop by and say hi. Also, I'll be on All About Android coming up in December. I can't remember which day it is. Sorry, it might be the 12th or something like that. But I'll be on All About Android coming up very soon. And of course, you can always pick up my book, Linux for Makers. It's available at all better bookstores and, of course, on Amazon. You can pick that up and learn if you're not familiar with Linux. But you are familiar with making and you want to get started with the Raspberry Pi. It's a good primer for how to use Linux on the Raspberry Pi.
Cool. And I always used to say that you could tell it's a better bookstore because it has my book.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you define it's available at all better bookstores because they have your book.
I'm going to pick that one up and start using it.
Go ahead. I love doing that with Learning Perl all these years and programming Perl back in the days before that. All right, we're running over time. Anyway, Aaron, thank you for your insight. Thank you for taking time out of your holiday schedule. Thank you for clearing it with your wife and being on the show and providing your insight. I really appreciate that. Yeah, you bet. And happy birthday and happy Thanksgiving. Not only to you, but to everybody out there, right? Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Happy birthday to everybody, too. And happy birthday to my twin sister, Meryl Hemingway. We share that one birthday every year, so she's exactly my age. I actually met her once many, many moons ago now, but we used to exchange birthday presents and cards and stuff. So anyway, that's enough of that. That's enough for me. We'll see you all again next week on Floss Weekly.